Hi everyone, welcome to Sven's Bricks. My name is Sven. First of all, I apologise for my voice today. I've had a cold the last couple of days. I'm just about coming out of it now. While I've been ill, I sat and pieced together the Speed Champions DB5, and I was so blown away by the build and the design of this that I felt that I wanted to make a short review video just to let me know my thoughts. I wouldn't normally necessarily review this. Reviews aren't my biggest interest, but I just honestly think that this is such a masterclass in design and building techniques that I thought I would make a quick video. So without further ado, let's get to it. So the set comes with 298 pieces in total, including a few brand new pieces, or at least to me. One minifigure in the form of James Bond, which I believe is the Daniel Craig version. The design really is better than the creator version. I'd say mainly thanks to a couple of new sloped pieces. So I think this one is brand new for 2022. It's a sort of double-sided slope like this, a 1x slope. But then also this one, which I think is relatively new, not brand new, 2x version of that one. But those two combined really allow this car to have the desired shape, because it really is very accurate, I think, to the real deal, especially for the scale that is built in. And as mentioned, the creator version for me doesn't come as close to this. So the building process starts off in a relatively familiar way with the 6-wide chassis piece, which was introduced with the 8-stud cars last year. But then it does go into some new territory for me. I wouldn't say that it was a challenging build, but there's definitely some unusual techniques, some of which you can see underneath here. So these pieces here holding on these brackets at the front, the piece that holds on the exhaust, or rather the binocular piece there. But then also fascinatingly for me was the way that they did this silver bumper here, because that was actually built as a separate build first, that silver bumper. And then the whole, so it's actually 7 studs wide, that silver bumper. And then it's then placed on underneath the car. So that it's the same with the front bumper there as well. And it really just captures the look of the car, if you ask me. And again, it totally humbles me, because there's no way that I would have been able to come up with that as a design idea. It just wouldn't happen. Then I also think that the car is definitely marketed for the adult market, which I really appreciate, because it's a cheaper set and most of the adult sets are very expensive. And the reason I think this is because they seem to have put in a little bit of extra detail, a little bit of extra care in certain places. So for example, underneath the wheel arch here, there's a little 1x1 stud on the side. And at first, there's one there as well, in there. And at first, and in there, in fact, in the back of that wheel arch. And at first, I really had no idea why they were doing this. I thought maybe they were going to put a piece on there, but then I thought, but then surely the wheel won't fit. And then I realised that it's because they wanted to fill in the tiny little black gap that would be left there. If they just used a 1x1 stud, they would have left a little black gap there. Another bit of detail that was possibly unnecessary, but much appreciated by me, was that it actually has a back seat. I mean, have you ever seen a car made by Lego with a back seat? I guess there's one or two, but there's not many. Unfortunately, you can't fit a figure in there. The roof is too low for a figure, but at least it gets the look right from the side of the car, which is what I appreciate the most. And then the interior is also beautifully detailed. So in the back there's a handbrake, which is actually attached to the driver's seat. And then there's a gear stick and a little instrument panel in the middle there. So they've really done well with the interior as well here, which I think is definitely a big nod to the adult market. The bonnet is actually clipped on, so I can show you that. It's actually clipped on underneath there, and when I was building this I thought, gosh, is it actually going to be possible to open this maybe and put something in it? but it was actually done that way in order to get the angle on the front of the car right. And then here, with the air intake on the top of the bonnet, this piece that you can see here, this thin light grey piece here, that's actually loose. It's actually a panel piece which is just placed loose inside there. I'll see if I can show you quickly. So this is what's underneath the bonnet, and it's one of these pieces. And there's a little gap there between the grey pieces and the black there, and that slides in loose like that. And the reason that they've done that is so that when you then put all this back together again, which I can just quickly do, it fills in the gap perfectly that would have been in between this grey piece and those larger panel pieces behind there. So it makes the air take smaller, but it also fills in that gap there, which is just, for me, that's just astonishing. Really, really brilliant. And it just shows the attention to detail that the designer had. So when you clip that back in, it then gives you that desired angle. The other bit that I thought was fascinating in the build was here. So I'm just going to pull this apart quickly and show you this piece here as well. And this is actually where one of the new parts is being used. I certainly haven't seen these before. I'm not sure if this is the first ever set, but it's certainly a newer piece. This is a 2/3 high brick with a hole in it. So why they didn't just make a 1/3 high, so like a plate with a hole in it, I don't know. But I thought it was a very interesting piece. And then I started to put on these brown pieces here, which are just those pieces. I don't even know what they're called, but the little handles. I started to put these in and I thought, gosh, what on earth is this going to be? And then I realized that these are going in on those, like that. And then on top of that is this new 2x rounded piece on top of that. That one goes there, like that. And then of course we have this slightly unusual bit here, because this is like half a plate deep, those grey pieces, to get over the sand coloured piece and the dark grey piece there. So that's fixed by using a studs on the side, and then another one of these 2x slopes, and that one goes on there, and it lines up perfectly. I mean, just perfectly. Really, really amazing. So there's a few new pieces, including those ones that I just mentioned. But then underneath here as well, I'm not going to pull it apart to show you, I can show you in the instructions, is a 2x6 studs on the side, which I definitely haven't seen before either. So that was very interesting. And then of course there's this large roof piece. So there's the grey tiles that I put on top, obviously. But then there's this large glass piece, which is the back of the roof. Not sure how much that will be used again, but it was very necessary for this build, I think, in order to get the airiness of the model. Really, really, really nice piece. Just captures the shape of the car perfectly. Now, of course, I'm sure that there are some people that would complain about Lego creating new pieces in order to get shapes accurate and so on. But I think that the Speed Champions line is probably the line we have to thank for the most when it comes to the smaller pieces. You know, these slopes, these angled slope pieces that are at the front here, those originally came from the Speed Champions line. I think maybe even the rounded tiles at the top there. And certainly these sloped pieces, I think a lot of these originated with this range. And yes, I think that some critique can be warranted for creating these large pieces, but in this case it's a bit different because it's actually a window piece which you want to be able to see through. You know, Lego in the early 2000s were making a lot of very large pieces which were very specialized, but I think, you know, that these smaller pieces, they're not specialized. These pieces here, these rounded pieces at the front, could be used for all kinds of things, and introducing them for the Speed Champions is just the perfect line to introduce them for, if you ask me, because of the shaping that can be accomplished thanks to these new parts. So I think it's really exciting actually to get the new Speed Champions line when it's released. So on to my only criticism really and that is, unfortunately, the colour of the stickers and also the colour of the printed part. The stickers, not sure if you can tell in this light, I think you can just about. They're not the same as the light bluish grey bricks. And you can see it if I angle a bit like that. It's a bit disappointing, and I think you can see it on the Aston Martin logo at the front of the car if I just adjust the focus a bit. It's a bit disappointing that they can't get that colour accuracy, because it really lets otherwise a perfect model down, especially considering that it's for the adult market. And then also the printed piece for the window is not either colour matched. In fact, perhaps even more so. It doesn't totally ruin the model, thankfully, but it's definitely worth mentioning. Lego is a premium product, and I think it needs to be addressed. It's been going on for many years. The prints on the back are very nice though, with the tail lights, and the prints on the front lights are also very nice. The rest of the stickers are good, the ones that are on the number plates. In fact, you actually get 4 sets of these, depending on which version of the DB5 you want to build. I went for the one from GoldenEye because I like GoldenEye. But there's a few different ones to choose from there. Finally, there's the figure. As I mentioned, I think this is the Daniel Craig version of James Bond. He comes with a spanner in the instructions, which I find a little bit amusing. I know that that's what they've done with every Speed Champions build, but James Bond is not really known for a spanner. But underneath the car, the piece that attaches the binoculars, which is the exhaust of the car, is a gun or a pistol or a hose piece, whatever you want to imagine that it is. And of course they give you 2, so I think this is done deliberately, so the Bond has a gun. I mean, what's Bond most famous for? A spanner or a gun? But I think the figure's really good. I think he's got a great expression on his face. The torso's nice, good printing on the torso, a tiny bit of detail on the back. Again, I think the printing could be improved slightly. I think his shirt definitely could be whiter. But the hairpiece is also perfect here, so I'm very happy with the figure. All right, so I think that's it for my thoughts. I managed to pick up this set for just under 20 euros. It retails for around 30 euros, which I think it's an okay price, but if you can pick it up a bit cheaper, then do so. I think to summarise, this is possibly my favourite ever Speed Champions set. It's just really nice to have such an iconic car from a movie that was such a joy to put together and so accurate for its scale. It makes me really want to see them try the DeLorean again with the new parts that the Speed Champions range have introduced, and other parts that have been introduced over the last 9 years. It would be really fun to see them try that again, especially after my review of that one. But yeah, I think that's it for now. If you enjoyed the video, please drop me a like, consider subscribing, and bye for now.